Hello, everyone. I'm Chris Caligari, and I'm your KubeVirt project organizer. And this is our weekly community meeting to discuss important issues in front of the community. And I will share my screen so we can watch our notes. Okay, if you could fill in your name in the attendees list, that would be excellent. And if you have a topic you'd like to discuss, please add it to the agenda or the open floor. And Kevin, hey. Kevin, sorry.
Yeah.
If I said Kevin, it would have been Ken.
Yeah, there's not so many options.
I'm still getting used to all of the names. Please forgive me.
No worries. No worries.
You have the first topic. Please proceed.
Yeah, I wanted to bring this up mainly after I don't know if is Roman here.
Yeah.
I hope so. Yeah, because I don't know if it's like. Tell me if we should discuss it in a different manner, but like. How we would handle different kind of probes in KubeVirt. Like this one is about the exit probe, but we have the QE ping probe, and I think it's like a general topic on.
Yeah, so I can tell you a little bit about the history about how we are implementing right now probes, and why we only support right now the probes which we have. So if you're still creating liveness and readiness probes, your VVMs, you can do that right now only for networking probes and not for exec probes. And one reason for that is that for networking probes, we can simply mostly reuse the pod probes. It has some limitations, like if you pause a VM, liveness probes would fail and so on, so you can't use them for all. But it works kind of okay, but not perfect. And the step for me was always to, when we add more probes, that we would redesign this to be more suited for our virtualization needs. And exec probes is one of the things where I would have wanted to see a redesign of our probe architecture before we add them. Mostly because exec probes have some nice side effects on various versions of container runtimes, and we burned us out already with exec probes when we used them for other purposes, and I made sure that we remove all exec probes in the whole project due to that. And yeah, that's the background. And I think your question is now on how to move forward with this, how such a redesign would look like, right?
Yeah, I already spent some time before using the like going through the pod probes, and like the only other way I saw was like using those readiness conditions.
Yeah, so,
that would allow us to do different custom stuff, but of course.
So I see other ways too, like one which can potentially collide with Istio maybe, is using localhost 127.0.0.1 as endpoint for the probes. You can configure that. And basically Virt Launcher would listen there and then proxy it to Virt Handler where appropriate. And you could not only use it for, and that means for, yeah, and you could not only use it for HTTP probes, and you could also use that for exec probes by then on the pod still configuring a network probe, but at the end then doing the exec probe or the QEMU exec probe or whatever we want to do there. The potential issue I see here is that Istio and other mesh networking solutions may want to talk through these ports on localhost to the actual workload and not to Virt Launcher. And for that, I would still see it already as an improvement to what we have now.
We already have, sorry for speaking over you, man, but we already have like a set of ports that we cannot use for the VM workload. Some of them are used for the live migration proxy. Some of them are used for Istio. So
Okay, so
it would be
just use one more.
yes, yeah.
Okay, it would make much difference. Still, there would be one additional possibility, and that would be just creating another local interface which listens on 127.0.0.2 or something, and use that for all that stuff.
Just to understand correctly, what you mean is then you would define your exec probe in your VMI spec, and it would be translated into an API call on a HTTP probe on the pod.
Virt Launcher, exactly. And Virt Launcher would have the VMI spec and know what actually to do and when not to do it. And for networking probes, this means that there is not, in general, it means there is not too much which needs to be re-implemented because it's mostly acting as a proxy and sometimes returning something instead of the workload, like when the VM is paused and we don't want to get it killed or something.
Okay, yeah, the only thing that would have to be done is translating a exec probe command into a probe HTTP query, which I don't know, depends on how complicated the exec probe is.
Yeah. So you would create so you would translate on the pod spec the exec probe into a HTTP query for localhost on a specific port. Virt Launcher would listen there and then just do the exec, which is defined on the VMI spec. And I would suggest to, on the long run, move all existing probes to that pattern, which we already have.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It doesn't feel intuitive at first to like, I don't know what would we do, like base 64 encode the shell command in the exec probe and send it forward to avoid escape problems.
No, you would just you would really just, so on exec probes and so on, you cannot really check what's getting back, right? You just see, okay, the exec probe succeeds or fails, right?
Yeah,
the same for
the
HTTP
command
probes. You do not care about the return. So Virt Launcher sees the VMI spec. So Virt Launcher can literally just.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Virt Launcher gets from Virt Handler the VMI spec. So you would just really create, you would just, for all probes, you would basically just take over the frequency and retry counter and everything. But you would, for all probes, just always ping the same localhost Virt Launcher port, and Virt Launcher would then just do the actual thing.
Okay.
So we can still leverage the retry counting and all those mechanisms from the kubelet, but we can we have more control than on what to actually do and how to do it.
Mm-hmm. And that wouldn't mean more overhead as well.
It would mean almost no more overhead. Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. The question is, well, can we just? No, it wouldn't really be an API change either, right? Because
it's just
that's good. Okay, I can get behind that.
That sounds great. That would be great.
Yeah, I was brain lagging on the but I need to encode the exec command into the path for the HTTP probe, and that's that felt weird, but yeah, that was completely off.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, could have been, but luckily it can be done much easier.
Yeah. All right. Okay, then I'll look at that. See also how I can get the networking right. I don't know about that yet. Like if I need a new interface or.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can. Yeah. I mean, you can start with the exec probe also, and then we can move them over afterwards. That's also fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds good. Thanks. That helped.
Good. Thanks for asking. Bring it up.
Okay, sounds good. Are we all set with this topic then?
I think so.
All right.
Yep.
Next topic, discussion of non-root implementation of launcher.
Hi, everyone.
Ivan, are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
now you're there.
Yeah, there you go.
Right. Sorry, double muted. So I want to bring up to the discussion the non-root implementation of launcher. I have a few topics. Mainly, I would like to discuss how we want to test this feature. It would require for some lanes to also run the implementation of root and non-root. Or we would also have the opportunity to say that we can default to the non-root. And that is basically the first question.
Okay, so one question here. What exactly would prevent you today from running from just, or let me rephrase it. What exactly is not encapsulated in your non-root PR, which would have to be considered outside?
So currently, the VirtuFS is not supported by the session mode. And also the huge pages are not included in the PR because there is some race condition which I would like to address after that.
Did you consider moving everything over gradually? So by first in your pull request, starting all the features which work and still use more privileges for the cases where it does not work, or is going back and forth too much? Or...
This is how it works right now. So if you have the huge pages or VTOFS, you will run the root implementation. So it is a gradual implementation.
Okay, so is there really something which you would need from CI and the lanes?
So, I mean, we need to test the non-root, right? Because we can, for example, I had a tree base and there was a PR from GrowSec which changed some permissions and it chips out the non-root.
So yeah, so but you have your PR, right? I mean, I would expect
yes.
we at some point either come to the conclusion that what you have right now is good enough and safe enough to take in so that we don't have any regressions and just merge it, or and then from there on you add huge pages and other features and just remove more and more the privileges, or
maybe I will ask the second question. And the second question is that there is no easy way to integrate a non-root in users in the Kubernetes. So if you use some device plugins that in the upstream is not that we are not testing them, then you can the plugin will give you the device with the root ownership, and you will not have the access to it, and that will break the non-root implementation. So that is one consideration where I would be more inclined to not default for non-root. And I'm not sure how it is used in the community to run some additional plugins.
yeah, as far as I know, most of them are always run as root. I see multiple ways. Yeah, I mean, I would just expect that we start conservative, and where we know that nothing is added which would need root, like devices, extra devices or something, that we would use the non-root one, and otherwise we would use the more privileged one. Deciding invert controller. Is that reasonable?
Sure. Yeah, sure. But
because I mean, we have that already for other things, like Vladik did a lot of device stuff and so on, and he has a lot of cases where he adds more and probabilities for certain requests and adds less for other one.
Yeah, sure. What I'm trying to point out is that you can have a device plugin, and I think we have the option to add the device to VM, and then you can alter the XML of KubeVirt through the sidecar, right? So these cases won't be easily detectable.
Okay, so we would need.
Yeah, but I guess in that case, the user would know that he cannot run non-root.
Yeah.
The question is, do we? I guess what you're trying to ask, I think, what do we do in our CI? Do we test both non-root and root? Do we test all the features with root and non-root, or do we just default to non-root, and then special cases will be handled differently?
I guess in CI we cover most things which we support in general. So I think you should just go with the non-root case where possible, and the rest would anyway just fail in CI, which means it's not ready yet, and there you would fall back to privileged mode.
Okay, so we would like, or the way is to go with default of non-root in the CI and don't double the lines, right?
Yeah, what's not clear to me is, I don't expect that we will have two code paths merged where we, in the sense of in general to use non-root and then somehow switch to the root version. I would have, at least I always had it in my mind that with your work, we are gradually moving KubeVirt over to lesser privileges and not having parallel implementations, but maybe that's not how it is done.
I was thinking about the case when you have a cluster, we introduce the non-root, we still want to test the root path because there are VMs that are running the root implementation, right?
Yeah, but
So,
I mean, we test devices and all this kind of things. So I would expect that they are failing. We test huge pages and so on. So we test the cases here where you would need root. I agree. We could think about if the sidecar is enabled and the sidecar notation is there. You may also want to go with root for now.
I think that was not my point. My point was that in the testing, so for the testing, if we switch to test the non-root in the cases we can run it, and root only for cases where the non-root is not possible to run, then we might miss some code paths for root implementation, and that can break some existing workloads, right?
Okay, that makes more sense. No, I think I get it.
Great. Sorry if I wasn't clear.
David, Radek?
Yeah, maybe we just need another lane.
Yeah, why not? So we would have one lane then where we where we run as many tests as possible as non-root.
Yeah, it will give us a path forward, I think.
Yeah. And then it would basically be a feature gate or something which decides the config what you want.
A little bit just
Okay.
Did we test it with the SROV and some kind of
Yeah, so currently I'm forcing the non-root to be tested for all lanes. It's passing all cases. I think there is one test which is failing. Yeah, I lost some part of the implementation by rebasing, so I can fix that. So currently it's passing all the tests, all the lines with non-root implementation.
Nice.
How did you
nice.
add the capsys resource capability or to make it work?
So I thought that you don't need the
It's not-
capability. Sorry.
Yeah, you don't need this because it's running with the same user.
Yeah, exactly. So we don't need it.
Okay, nice.
Okay, sounds good. That's going to be an important feature for our version 1.0, correct? Running
I think
non-root.
it was mentioned in the V1 spec what we want to do.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's a major one for sure.
Oh, David, you are here.
I am. I've just been kind of lurking.
You show up as a very strange username.
Oh, maybe that's a feature.
Anonymous user.
So you guys don't know. Yeah, I can just show up when nobody can call me out.
Right? Okay, we spent a bit of time on that one, so let's move on to ARM64 cross-compiling. Roman.
Yeah, I just wanted to give, I gave a few status updates in the past already. Just wanted to highlight that the ARM engineer continued with cross-compilation support, and I made the job, the pre-submit job required today. So whenever you do a pull request, you're now also doing cross-compiles for ARM64, and works pretty nice. And yeah, really everything from RPM installation, from container builds, C compilation, Go compilation, everything is cross-compiled. So we really get the full KubeVirt thing cross-compiled there natively, which is pretty nice.
Excellent.
It's a huge, big amount of work, and I think a good role model also for PPC 64. Everything is, it can follow the same pattern without too much effort.
That's awesome. See all things open demo way down at the bottom. Talk about that more. Kevin, back to you for FeatureGate deprecation.
Yeah, I forgot to add that one earlier. Yeah, that's also a follow-up on a PR. I can't seem to have the link right now. So with node labeler as a part of KubeVirt now, we figured out that the CPU node discovery and the Hyper-V enlightenment feature-gate, Hyper-V strict check feature gates could be default. And yeah, we didn't know how to do that until we were shown, I think by Stu, that there is a way to default feature gates now, which I honestly still don't really understand if it's actually a default, because it doesn't look like one. It feels like it just defaults for generation. And I'd like to bring up a general discussion if we want or should be able to change or deprecate the FeatureGate API and to make it fields that can be properly defaulted and are part of the schema. And yeah, I'm sure somebody has an opinion about that.
Well, it sounds like, okay, so we have a feature gate for some of this node labeler stuff because node labeler was previously in a different project. Now it's in KubeVirt, it's always enabled. So we always just want to use it if it's there. That's the case, right?
Yeah, we want to use it if it's there, but people might have to disable it if they use emulation and CPU features on their VMIs, because then their VMIs won't get scheduled.
Okay, so it sounds like it's still a feature gate then. Like I guess
Yes.
I'm not understanding why we would need to change anything. It sounds like it's working as intended. So we have a feature gate where people can enable this if they want
I guess
to.
the point is that that we cannot enable it by default, and then you just disable it. That's not something which you can do right now.
Yeah. It is a special case to disable it, not a special case to enable it anymore. Like that switched.
One solution would be, for instance, to have for every feature gate a disable feature gate associated, and only one of the two can exist, and then you could have defaults or something like this, or a map.
That gets really confusing because then
Yeah.
what's the default behavior? Like if you didn't specify the feature gate, what do you get if we have both enable and disable?
Yeah, it's just we don't have a way to graduate things out, since the feature gate is also used for, you know, you have an alpha feature, you want to allow people to play with it, but it should be okay, but you don't want it to be enabled by default. So you add the feature gate, it's not enabled. But at least in Kubernetes, then you have the step where they enable it by default and you can still disable it.
Yeah, I'm used to feature gates having a life cycle most of the time, and I actually was surprised to see that feature gates are like the string array in KubeVirt, and I know in HCO, for example, it's like fields that can have defaults that are in the schema, and I would like to discuss or propose that feature gates could become an actual object with fields that we can describe, document, and also default. And if that's like completely off as an idea because it doesn't match what we want to do at KubeVirt, or if it's just, I don't know.
So the history here is, it's kind of long. We had a config map before we had the KubeVirt custom resource. And
yeah,
that's where the list of strings came from. Because we had a config map, you had a feature gate key, and then the values were just a string of comma delimited, whatever word I can't say, values. When we were translating that to the KubeVirt CR, we essentially just took that and directly like pulled it into the KubeVirt CR for better or for worse. So that might have been an opportunity to kind of change things here. So now, I don't know what, there's not, I mean, we can come up with some sort of scheme where we add a new field, I guess, and we had to maintain compatibility is the problem with what we have now. So I don't, it's unclear. It's unclear to me what the correct path is. I kind of wonder if there's a path that we should be taking that deprecates feature gates and moves them into well-defined fields as they become like a mature feature. So let's take live migration, for example. Live migration at this point is probably mature enough that it could be enabled by default. Yet if somebody wants to disable it cluster-wide, then that could be like a toggle in a well-defined API. So maybe there's a graduation where a feature gate, once it's no longer an experimental or alpha feature or something like that, gets removed from the list, gets enabled by default, and then graduates to another field where it becomes something you can toggle on and off. I don't know. I'm just it's off the top of my head.
That's kind of what I'm looking for, or what I'm hoping to go towards. That because from what I've heard in multiple discussions, that feature gates should be like developer try something out, but that also implies that it should be gone as a feature gate at some point.
There is a nice pattern of feature object that I saw in the Hyper-V area, in the webhook Hyper-V. So it's like a feature object has a boolean of enable, disable, it also has a dependency if it depends on other feature. So if you would like to, I don't know, refactor this area to become more scalable object, I mean in terms of feature gate, so I think this would be nice to adopt from there.
Yeah, that sounds way more expressive as well. That might make a lot of sense.
And it also means we can attach documentation to the fields, and we can, as I said, have defaulting, but also like it's part of the schema that can be seen in documentation. That I really like. Because right now I don't know where feature gates are documented, but if in the worst case I look at the code, which ones exist, and that's like not nice.
So one thing, here's the thought: we can preserve the existing feature gate behavior, that string, and create this new, way more expressive structure. And it's kind of like other parts of our API where you pick one. So you either pick the more expressive way of enabling feature gates, or you use our old one. And the more expressive way has a way of enabling and disabling and a clear API for what the default behavior is. So it gives people a transition path to the new thing.
Yeah. What is the general practice or stance in KubeVirt around generally deprecating fields? Has it been done before? Like if we want to get rid of the old feature gates at some point, is there a way for us to do that?
We've
Or
never
would
done
it be a
that.
new API version for the CR?
We've
It would be
never
an
done that.
API version right now.
We always say if we want to do it, we should probably follow the one for Kubernetes where you announce the duplication and 12 months later it's gone. But we never did it so far.
Okay.
Basically, it's just we need to agree on a policy for it.
Yeah.
So we've kind of just kicked the can down the road for years until, which is, I mean, that kind of makes sense to a degree. Like, let's tackle it once it becomes critical. It's like a forcing function for us.
All right. So, okay. How about, like, I wouldn't mind starting a document about the specific case, which could serve as our first example for that, deprecating stuff, like laying down a roadmap and a plan on how to do the new feature gate object. And
Ooh, use the new design process. So your user stories could be
I was thinking about that.
Yeah, you can say, I want to add this thing, or this happened. Okay, yeah, you got it.
So it could be an example for the design process and for the deprecation process and fixing feature gates at the way.
I'm going to be creating a design document probably this week as well. So you won't be the only one.
Awesome.
Do we have an idea of how many feature gates we have?
6, 7, I think. I don't know.
Okay.
I have
Probably around 10, something like that.
Oh yeah, it's more.
There's a lot of them.
I'm not sure that
13
actually have effect on KubeVirt.
Yeah.
Was a final number 17?
The list of variable constants we have here are 13. I don't know if all of them are used in the code anymore.
Okay.
That's in featuregates.go.
And it's right now also a mixture of features which are some features are also major but are disabled due to security implications, like sidecar, for instance.
One part of this came from like the current CPU feature, like node labeler feature gates. There are 2 of them, and we would actually like to merge them because there's no reason to keep them separate anymore. So yeah, one of those aspects. All right, thanks. And I know what to do now. That always helps.
Thanks, Kevin. Okay, next topic, Maya.
Okay, so we wanted to remove some workarounds that we added for the kind lane, and someone proposed that perhaps someone is relying on this. So this is another heads up that they're being removed, and please pick up if you are running a lane in the setup, and if it bothers, like just if you are running it at all. And that's it.
What exactly you want to remove?
There was some tests being skipped if running on Kubernetes in Docker. They weren't passing.
So are there any other tests other than SRV tests that skipping on a kind of setup?
Sorry, I missed some of that. I'm having connection issues, but I think it's not a problem from the SIRV lane. It's running a very small subset of tests, and not these tests.
Okay, thanks.
Great, CI improvements are always welcome. Thank you, Maya. I have the next topic. David, your favorite one. When are we moving libvirt away from rel downstream?
Yeah, I don't have any more information on that. Does anyone else?
Easy reply.
Yeah. Anyone else have any information on, I think we were going to transition to CentOS streams.
As far as I know, that still takes time. But I have no clue when it's done, but people are talking about at least half a year or more.
Goodness.
Last time I heard that.
Do we have a GitHub issue on this?
I think so. But let me check.
And just the regular CentOS stream doesn't include what RelAV has.
Right, the machine types.
Yeah, but there is this plan from the Red Hat people on the Virt to do all this RelAV stuff in CentOS Stream, make it always available in an extra stream on CentOS Stream.
That's interesting.
And that would be something which you could pick up, and it would be more transparent for the whole community.
Okay, well, if you could, if we don't have to wait while you find that issue. I can plug it in after the meeting, or create one if there's not one there.
I don't see one.
Okay, I'll create one. I'll create that issue then, so we at least have something there. Okay, time for the open floor. I have just a few event updates. So let's roll through this pretty quick. Red Hat Summit for everybody who has volunteered. If you have not gotten your calendar invite for your time blocks, please see me. Those invites went out yesterday, and we will be testing the platform very soon. All things open. Stu and I have had a couple meetings now regarding what we want to do with all things open. The issue is in the bullet point. Looks like we're going to come up with an internet distributed edge computing Kubernetes cluster running on Raspberry Pi 4Bs and probably some Intels thrown in also. So mixed architecture, mixed workload. So that circles back to the ARM64 cross-compiling, which I'm so happy to hear because that was a big question on whether we could even run KubeVirt on ARM64s. I spoke with my NASA colleague last night and asked him what he would like to see in a mixed workload demo that would perk his interest. His number one issue with his OpenStack implementation is dealing with Celliometer and getting metrics out of his virtual machines. So if in this demo we can provide a quick view on how the node exporters work with a Grafana dashboard showing metrics, he's really going to be interested in seeing that. So also, if you're interested in participating, please chime in on the issue or contact me. We have about 6 people now that are going to provide hardware and to build this spider web across the internet. It's really starting to sound pretty cool. KVM forum popped up in the news yesterday. If you're interested in participating in KVM forum, please talk to me. I didn't really push this one because right now the wording on the event page is just it didn't sit well with me, being that it's an in-person event and we have a global pandemic going on right now. I'm uncomfortable with pushing people into traveling in this situation. But if you're comfortable with it and you want to go to Ireland, let me know, and we'll see what we can do. Maybe you live in Ireland and you can just walk down the street and attend the conference. All right, so that is the updates for events. Does anybody else have any general topics that they want to talk about?
Hi, I would like to touch a topic. It's more like on the project level in KubeVirt, about our policy of cherry picking PRs to stable branches. So far, as I'm aware, we are cherry picking urgent bug fixes, which are usually filed in Bugzilla, and our recent efforts to reduce the flakiness in the upstream CI will have resulted in product code PRs, which may fix some area of code to stabilize the test. And so my question is whether it's rational to cherry pick such PRs as well, which, I don't know, may affect the stability of the release branch. But still, it may, on the other hand, reduce the flakiness on the lanes when we run them on the stable branches. So yeah, what do you think?
Do they fix a bug? Or I guess if they reduce flakiness, then I guess, yeah, what do they fix? They need to address a production issue, I would like to think, if it's touching the actual production code. I think we're okay with backporting test fixes that don't touch production code. When it actually touches production code, we want to make sure we can justify it somehow. So how can we justify it?
Okay. So for the sake of formality, we can just create an issue and link the issue to the PR, and then justify the backporting of the PR and saying that we are actually fixing this issue backward, taking this fix backward to a stable release for the purpose of CI stability. Does it make sense?
Is it a defect? Are we fixing defects in our? I'd have to actually look at every example of this. It's kind of a case-by-case basis. Like, it's really difficult to say without looking at the PR and what it addresses.
David, I hate to say we're going to have to define this officially because it's going to be part of due diligence.
I think we have. We've said that we backport bug fixes.
Okay.
We've explicitly said like defects. Here, let me find. Sorry, I've got some background noise because there's construction. I'll post a link to the document real quick and see if the verbiage in there makes sense to everyone.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So that's the link I posted in the chat. And can you, like, how bad is my background noise right now? Is it like can you hear me, or is it just?
It gets bad, then it goes away.
Okay. Well, yeah. So they're. Oh, sheesh. Okay. Sorry.
Your voice is significantly louder than the background noise either way, so you're good.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. To me, it sounds really, really loud, but maybe it's not as bad for you all. Yeah, so that's our policy, and I think we just have to justify if it fits within that policy. So that's where the argument needs to be made, and if we're not comfortable with that policy, then that's a different discussion.
Wow. Well, thank you for the heads up. I didn't realize we have such policy, so yeah, I will go over it, and if I have some concerns, I will let you know. Yeah, thank you.
We have a lot of trouble with important documents like this being hidden. So it goes for all the documents from licensing to contributing guidelines, code of conduct, release policy, membership policy. And part of my discussions with the Red Hat Office of Open Source program, they really want us to organize these documents. It's a big plus for us to do this for when we petition the CNCF for graduation. We don't want to be zigzagging around the different repos and through directory structures to find policies. So Peter, don't give me a hard time about my PRs for broken links.
Sorry, I can't help myself.
I'm trying, and I don't want to just slam in a whole bunch of different PRs. I'm just trying to do baby steps to organize our library of stuff. And I'm also trying to do 100 other things too. So. Okay, any other topics? We're at 7:50. How about we skip bug scrub this week, since we had a really nice one last week, and you guys get 10 minutes back of your morning.
Sounds great.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Sounds good, everybody. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you around the project or see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank
See
you.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Everyone.
Bye.
Bye bye. Thanks.